Um, what I did with the last session before we actually got into like the deck stuff is like on a scale of like 1 to 10, how strong do you think your fundamentals are? Like
I
trading
think
and understanding when like how to play towards your win conditions, stuff like that.
I understand how to set up a two-turn lethal and when to do that. I feel like my biggest issue is I trade inconsistently, and I'd say like my fundamentals are like a good 7 out of 10.
Okay. And then when it comes to like deck construction or deck refinement, how would you like rate yourself there? Do you feel like that's something that you've even really attempted before, or is it something that you kind of just let like sit by itself, like not really touched, you know?
I look at a lot of deck data from Hearthstone replay and just like card data, and I feel like just looking at the raw data makes me gives me an edge a little bit, but
Hmm.
there's also a lot of, well, I'm just net decking at the end of the day, and this deck has the highest win rate.
Okay. Um, what do you think like so if you net deck a lot, is there do you often go into lists and like change things around, or do you just mostly kind of trust what like the data says or what you or like what you start with?
I'll change things around. Like I have an even warlock list that I messed around a lot. I've noticed a lot of people cut the Doomsayer, but the
Yes,
Doomsayer is really good in the mirror matchup.
that's true. Yeah, the our first session that is going to be edited into a video is all about even warlock, and we didn't go as in depth as like I would have wanted to, but that's okay because it's kind of just like the basics and coaching and stuff. But the Doomsayer and the Mirror, we went in, I think in our session we played a mirror match, and basically it came down to the coin flip of who had Mountain Giant first, because neither of the lists seemed to have run Doomsayer, which is your only counterplay to that.
Yeah, and if they're going second, they can play Mountain Giant on 3, and you can really interrupt their tempo by tapping and playing your Doomsayer on 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's that's a really good point. If it ends up that that didn't get like brought across in that session, I'll probably end up making a little note to that video, because that's something that I'm pretty sure we didn't talk too much about, but it's actually really good that you realized. I would say that the fact that you were able to identify that says that you're definitely in a much like higher skill ceiling than it might feel like you are with your deck construction.
So like I can usually get to rank 5 in like any season. It's getting to legend that I'm having trouble with. I've done it before. It's just like I either don't play enough or I just don't care enough about that reward. But I want to get there.
Yeah, that's basically the same boat I'm in. I don't think there's been a season since they changed how ranking works that I haven't hit five. Um, but especially like that commitment to get all the way to legend, it takes a lot of time. And so I would say that the most important thing to try and be able to like bridge that gap from five to legend, without just being able to sit and play the same deck for like 300 games and learn all the in and outs, is to try to get better at identifying your local meta for the day. So typically that takes around 5, 6, upwards of like 10 games to figure out where your local meta is. But if you can just sit down and play like 10, 20 games and like from what you're feeling out, find a deck that counters what you're seeing. Because typically, and it's kind of a weird like phenomenon, because obviously no one at like rank 3 is specifically talking to other people at rank 3 about what to play, but with each tier there's always like a very prominent deck, and then the second you get to a different tier that typically changes. And so being able to identify what you should play or what you should tech in based on what you're seeing is really important. So that's one of the big
I
things that I try to focus on with the coaching, is once we're going to play a couple games with with your starter list, but then we'll be able to talk about what the tech slots are and like how you can change those around and what can fit in there to help certain matchups and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. I've definitely noticed that myself. Like I'll sit down for a few games and be like, okay, I just need to play Even Warlock. And then I'll sit down the next day and Even Warlock's completely unplayable.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's why, like, that's one of the criticisms I get a lot from when I talk to people about like the ladder system, because a lot of the people that I talk to are from the tournament scene, because I do all the Hearthstone collegiate champion stuff, and
Oh, that's
there's
cool.
there's actually like a pretty big disconnect because even though a lot of those players are sitting at like rank 5 or legend, a lot of them come and all have the same concern that like ladder really is a lot of just either finding one deck and mastering that deck, so even if you're in a place where that deck sucks you can try and do your best and still eke out wins, or it's a lot of just kind of choosing like just the strongest deck at the time and just playing some games and hoping that you win, because the ladder system really doesn't reward like out of match like decision making that much, if that
I
kind of
feel like
makes
that's
sense.
more true than ever right now, actually. Like, I definitely hit legend during Witchwood, and I felt like even when I was in a counter matchup, I had a fighting chance. Now
Yeah,
that I'm in a counter matchup, I feel like it's such an uphill battle, I might as well just concede.
that's I totally feel that. I was not this month because it just started, so the ladder reset and everything, but last month I was able to hit rank 1 like 3 stars, and I just got stuck there for like 4 days, and then eventually the season rolled over and I was like, "Oh, that's okay." But what I noticed is there's right now in the game with the meta how it is with combo druid and even combo rogue being a thing that is so strong, and shutterwalk and then just aggro, there's decks that like there's certain archetypes you can't even play anymore. And basically like your deck nowadays either has to be a hard combo deck that like in the early game can ramp like druid, or has enough efficient removal to get through the early game, or it has to be an aggro deck that gets onto the board turn 1. Because if you skip like a turn 1 or 2 right now in the game, you just kind of lose because there's not
Yeah,
enough tools to bring you back typically.
I completely agree with that. Like, I was messing with this deck today, and I was looking at deck stats, and I found that a lot of people had been cutting the knife juggler,
Hmm.
and it's because it was inconsistent removal and teching in the Fire Plume Phoenix. I've been playing with that and found it to be a lot more consistent.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that stood out to me during last month when I was trying to climb is supposedly Death Rattle Hunter is one of the best decks in the game. And obviously, if you're able to get to the late game where you can jam Katharina to get chargers and like out, you get to beat combo decks. That deck, if unless you draw like perfectly, if you don't do anything for the first 3 turns like you typically would, there's just no stopping any aggro deck. I had a
I've played that deck and I've noticed that too.
I don't
Like,
I'm not sure what the data looks like because I haven't looked at it that much, but I have to imagine that against Even Shaman and like Odd Rogue, or like I saw that Odd Hunter's coming back and then Odd Pally, Death Rattle Hunter has to have like a 30% win rate in those matchups because if they have any presence and you don't have like a Candle Shot or a Hunter's Mark for their Henge Clan Thug or something like that, there's nothing you can do.
so I've noticed it does pretty well against Odd Rogue. The thing it doesn't do well against is Odd Hunter. Odd Hunter is like a hard counter for Death Rattle right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw that Odd Hunter was coming back, but I haven't actually played a game against it or played the deck, so it's
It just
interesting to
feels
see if
so
that came
brain
up.
dead.
Yeah, no,
I
that's the
shouldn't
thing.
say
Like,
that, but like that's my like one assessment from just watching it. I'm just like, oh my god, I'm losing to this again.
yeah, I'm I'm definitely a player that leads more towards control and like mid-ranger combo decks, and I understand that aggro strategies and like tempo decks have a lot of nuances to them, but sometimes like there's just decks where you're like, come on, man, how can you sit and play this for like 2 hours?
Yeah. Like I definitely have played my fair share of like Mill Druid and all the rest. And even then I feel like it's inconsistent sometimes.
Yeah.
Particularly like if you're facing down like a lot of aggro that day, like you're never gonna go anywhere with Mill Druid.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the game's in a really weird state right now where you either have to hard dedicate to a combo that can, like, you have to have enough stall so that if you're a combo deck, then you don't die to aggro, but you also have to have enough of a combo where you can kill like other combo decks fast enough, which it's a really weird situation because it means that typical combo decks that we used to see, like Exodia Mage or like a new variant of Freeze Mage, kind of came up last meta that died back down. Um, they just don't have enough draw to keep up anymore, which is crazy because Freeze Mage originally was like the deck in the game that had the most draw. So it's interesting to see how combo decks have evolved because that's just how they have to survive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But yeah, so things could have changed in the past like 2 days since I laddered a lot, but I'm gonna say they probably didn't. And so the meta's probably looking like Combo Druid, Odd Rogue, Odd Pally, Death Rattle Hunter, and then those are like your four main decks. So that's kind of what you're looking to queue against tonight when we learn Even Shaman. What do you think about each of those four matchups? Do you think you're favored or unfavored?
Say them again real quick. I think Druid I'm completely unfavored in unless I draw Mossy.
Okay.
Like I pretty much lose that like 70% of the time. They have to draw really poorly for me to win.
Okay.
I feel like I do well against even Warlock. Even Warlock's definitely a big thing right now. And it's just because they stay at low health for so long
Yeah.
that my aggro deck is able to just outbeat them. I've noticed some like big mage and like Brian Kibler, elemental mage, and that's very topsy turvy.
I was just say
Um,
I haven't experienced Even Shaman versus the new hand mage, so that'd be really interesting for us to actually play against because um, that'd make for a cool dynamic. Since I haven't actually seen that, that'd be more of like on the fly figuring out what we have to do.
I agree.
But yeah, I'd
What
say
was the other decks? Death Rattle Hunter.
yeah,
I
Death
feel like
Rattle.
I can out tempo them, and am producing such a wide board that they can never really deal with it unless they get Witchwood Grizzly on the board.
I totally agree with that. I think that out of the main decks that we're gonna face, any druid's going to be a combo deck, and it's druid, so it has a ton of armor. So that's a hard matchup, but it's not unwinnable. It's just you have to have like a very strong curve. You can't have with even shaman, especially because you run so much high end in this original list. You can kind of draw dead a lot of the time, and if you draw dead versus druid, then there's just nothing you can do. There's no way to come back for you.
I completely agree with that. I definitely have drawn dead more than once with this list.
Yeah,
I
that's
think Hagatha is like actually one of the big issues with it because like while I do rely on board clears with Hagatha, I feel like it's never good enough, and the random generation effect is just like it gives me cards, but it's random cards, and random cards are almost never that good.
okay. I see where you're coming from, and I, I disagree. I like strongly disagree, and we're gonna save that topic for after we do a couple games with this list and see how we feel. Because I want to get a sense of how you play the deck and kind of what goes behind your decisions with this original list, and then we can start talking about making changes to one of the main questions you ask when you have a deck list is um, obviously we're playing an aggro deck kind of. It has a lot of late game, so it's more mid rangey. Especially in this meta, it's like one of the I'd say it and Death Rattle Hunter are the only two like real mid range decks at the moment. Um, but essentially, our deck has a lot of early game and a lot of late game, and with especially since even there's only so many cards to choose from, you can either choose to go in the more late game focus or in the more like early game focus. So that'll be something interesting to look at is if we want to make a more aggressive even shaman list or a more like responsive even shaman list.
Okay, that's fair.
But I say for now, you seem to have a decent understanding of how the like a pretty good understanding of how the meta works and um, like how to know your matchups. So I think that we're good just to jam a game or two and see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Damn, dude, 5,000 gold. I like it. I think I'm at 2,000, which is the most I've ever had.
I'm trying to get 10,000 for the next expansion. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it by the next month though.
I love I love watching this Twitch chat because it's two of my friends that don't play Hearthstone that are the only ones using the Twitch chat, and it's just all memes.
That's great.
All right, so we're against Shaman. Um, what do you think about your mulligan in this matchup is going to be? I'm actually going to pull up your
I think
list.
I'm gonna throw all of it away, looking for my two costs mostly.
Okay. Um, what I would suggest is keeping Corpse Taker, because if you're in the mirror, then it's just really strong because it has Divine Shield and Taunt. So if they don't have Flame Tongue, then it normally trades like 2 or 3 for 1.
Okay,
And if it's Shutter Walk, then it's one of your main like win conditions because you can just get it on the board so quickly that
I agree.
with Wind Fury it can just become such a massive threat.
I definitely agree with that statement.
That's one of the things that's most important to learn about what your deck does against certain matchups. Knowing your cards that can win you the game as early as possible is really important because a lot of the time, that's why I don't think mulligan guides are super useful in typical like teaching or guide or coaching and stuff like that because it's so situational that it all changes based on what you think your swing cards are, you know?
I completely agree with that. Firebat and Purple were having a big discussion about that today.
Oh, really? I hope that that ends up
Yeah,
in a video somewhere because I'd love to see that. All right, so yeah, I totally agree with this play. Ooh, you
that's
had
a
a
good
really
roll.
good one too. But yeah, no, I totally agree with that play because you want to save your reactive damage for either burst or, dealing with the board.
I completely agree.
This is probably gonna look like a mana tide totem. Yep,
Yeah,
but we have an answer for that, so that's pretty cool, pretty good. Ooh, and we got Calamos, which means this entire game we can play around having an extra 6 burst.
yeah, which is really nice.
Yep.
I feel like removing this mana time totem's pretty important,
I
particularly in this matchup.
I like removing this totem. I would say that like it's not that important, but since we already sunk the 2 damage into it, it's worthwhile. A lot of the time, like I always would trade there, but there's an argument to be made that the extra damage could end up mattering. The extra like 2 or 4 that we wasted on it.
I agree. The extra one damage.
I do think that the fact that we have Corpse Taker into Sea Giant. Okay, well we're not gonna have Sea Giant anymore, but this is a really good storm for us. Because something that I've noticed a lot of players do that you have to avoid when you're playing a more control deck is you really have to hold on to your resources against the aggro decks that exist right now. Because
I agree.
there's stuff like Odd Paladin and Even Shaman that just continually spam the board with these little shitty tokens that, like, if I have a board of 7/1/1s as Paladin and you AoE that, that is a net win for me by a long shot because I get to still use all my cards and you wasted one of your most important ones.
I completely agree. I've definitely started waiting until he levels up before I Hellfire.
That's a little risky, that specific situation, but I understand where you're coming from, and you understood the point that I was making, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
All right,
So I'm gonna Fire Plume and take six to face and Totem.
I completely agree. Getting that getting that chip damage is going to be really important. And in this matchup, they don't play a lot of minions. You already dealt with one of their 2 mana tides, which is one of the only things that you're really going to use the 2 damage ping from the Phoenix on. So
Yeah.
removing the totems there is fine. We look like we're on a pretty good path to have a chance here, though. He hasn't played any of his combo cards. He's just played AoE, and this sets up for a Serenite turn, which is pretty good to set up our Sea Giant.
Yeah. I can also next turn play Fire Plumes to activate Calamos if I want to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that if possible, if like we have decent lines still, we might want to save Calamos burst as a surprise. But
I can agree.
if we don't draw anything good, then I think that it's fine to go for that line. Our hand's pretty strong though. If he plays like he can't this turn because he's overloaded, but if he ever plays Grumble, we have an answer to it. Answer to the body. All right.
I think Sea Giant's a pretty obvious play here.
I agree that we should be setting up a Sea Giant board. What do you think
I'm
the
gonna.
most effective way
What,
of
how do
setting
you
that
feel
up
about
is?
playing Primal Fin right here too?
Let's see. So if we play Primal, our Sea Giant goes down to 4, and we have 5 mana left. But on board we have no good trades, which could mean that if he has a second Lightning Storm, our Sea Giant could get like he could high roll our Serenites and then trade into our Sea Giant. So I actually think, hmm, never mind. The line I was looking at, we need one more mana for, so that doesn't actually work. I do like playing Primal since the line I was looking at didn't work.
Yeah, I really wanted to play Fire Plume and Giant also, but you just can't.
Yeah, we just don't have the mana for it. So yeah, I just go 2-1 and then Sea Giant, and then I double trade in here. Cool. Um, we're hoping he doesn't have Grumble. Grumble's like his best play this turn, because if he has that, he also gets to replay a Serenite.
Yeah, that's painful.
Him using one Storm and one Volcano already is really good for us though, because it means that he's like pretty low on AOE resources.
Yeah, that is like half of his AoE.
He could have a Hex, but even if he hexes, then that means that we get to get our Lich King down. So
Yeah,
we
and
tr-
tempoing Lich King is just so great.
it's like it's like one of the strongest cards in the game. I think that a lot of people compare it to Ragnaros before it got Hall of Famed, because there's almost no 8 drop you want to play over it, but it's
Ooh,
also
this is
much
looking
more
like a good
balanced.
turn.
Yeah, this is looking really good for us because that means he's really desperate. That means his hand must be like, okay, there's the Hex. That's a little unlucky, but
He won't use it on Lich King now.
yeah. And we get to trade in our little token. Ooh, okay.
That's kind of.
That's kind of annoying, but we can we have a flame tongue to get through it next turn anyway, so this turn's pretty
Do you?
straightforward.
Okay, so you don't. Am I gonna remove this?
Um, this is you can choose not to. I normally would though, just in case he has Grumble, because getting a
Okay,
second solo would be bad for us. So yeah, I just like Lich King, double trade, get the ping in to face. Nice. And then we're gonna have an open spot for our Flame Tongue if he plays that second Serenite, and we have the two
yeah,
1/1 tokens. Army of the Dead. I
that's
like.
really good in this deck.
I was about to say in this, especially in this matchup, that's really good. Okay, this is fine.
I might play Army of the Dead.
I am totally up for the Army of the Deadline. Nothing else in our hand really puts on that much pressure, because our only other play is like Flame Tongue, Fire Plume to set up for Calamos, but that's really weak. So I like this. We only
Eh,
burned Hagatha, which is fine because this matchup doesn't need it.
do you throw down Flame Tongue here?
I would keep it, especially because we got all 2 attack minions in the center. If he plays Serenite, we can Flame Tongue in between those and get like even trades.
Okay, yeah, I see that. I'm
Um,
going to play Totem because I want him to have a worse
Mind control tech.
volcano.
Yeah, this it makes his mind control tech slightly worse.
That too.
Let's see. So we have lethal next turn if he doesn't
We
do
do.
anything. But see, this is like a perfect game to bring up the point we were talking about. When you're playing a control deck, you have to use your AOE like super well, because he wasted a volcano on a board that it was like 2 totems and a corpse taker, and he wasted his lightning storm on a menacing nimbus, a 2/3, and then 2 totems. Because essentially he traded 1 for 2 with all of those. Because none of our totems we actually care about.
I feel like this is a pretty weak turn from him, actually.
Um, I didn't do the math. It probably wasn't enough because we had Mossy with 7 health, but I feel like he should not have played that Acolyte beforehand.
There was like 17 on board.
Yet this was a awful. What in the hell? That was the worst sequencing I think I've ever seen for that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have
I
lethal.
think
What
we
is
just have
it?
lethal here.
410. Yeah, we have lethal with Fire Plume.
Yeah. And if not, if we both miscounted really quick, then we just had him so low that it doesn't matter. Oh yeah. That was very poorly done. He did not use his
Yeah.
AoE like he should at all in this match.
Yeah, I really agree with that.
I'm pretty sure he basically, like, he essentially lost the game on turn 3 when he Lightning Stormed a 2-2, a 2-3, and 2 totems.
Yeah, I felt like my board was not that threatening to Lightning Storm.
Yeah, he should, because, like, I guess he was scared of Flame Tongue
The
or Sea
flame, yeah,
Giant,
flame.
but even then, that only pushes, like, 4 damage. And he had a Hex the entire game because he ended up hexing the Sea Giant.
Yeah,
So that was really poor. I think we should jam another game with this list, and then we can go in and see what we think.
I agree. I think Shutterwalk's definitely like an outlier at this rank, where it's like you see it sometimes, but it's never successful,
Um,
or very rarely.
yeah, I'm not sure what language this guy in Twitch chat just typed in, but he asked for the deck list, so I'm gonna copy paste it to him.
That's one thing I don't play with. I don't play with deck trackers. I really feel like it makes you a weaker player.
I have nothing against Deck Tracker. I use it just because I like seeing my own stats, but I don't think it gives like a super advantage. Let's see.
I think I keep Corpse Taker. Do you keep Sea Giant? I don't think so.
I don't think so, because if you're keeping Sea Giant, you're assuming it's Zoo, and it's a really good card against Zoo, but against Even Lock, it's kind of dead.
I agree.
I would be okay with keeping Serenite here though, on in case it's Zoo, because even if it's
I can coin it out and play my turn 4 twice.
yeah, I think this is I think it's a safe keep on the Serenite, but I like keeping it just in case.
Ooh, Flame
Ooh,
Tongue's good. Earth and
that's
Might's also good.
both of those are very strong. Yeah.
I hope I roll a heal totem.
Ooh, okay, so it's not even Warlock.
It's probably Zoo.
Yep. Oh well, that doesn't show us
It's
actually.
probably Zoo.
I don't know. Q Block's kind of coming back. I've seen a bit of Q Block.
I'm
This is
not
a
going to coin into anything. I'm just
yeah.
toteming.
This is a very strong hand though.
I have a lot of defense options.
Yeah. Especially if we're against Zoo, we're definitely. Have you ever either read or seen it referenced the "Who's the Beatdown" article for Magic the Gathering? It's like 15 years old.
No, I haven't.
Okay. The basic concept of this article, it's like one of the like gospel of card games. It's called Who's the Beatdown? I don't know who wrote it, but it was originally about Magic the Gathering. And essentially, even if you go into a game as an aggro deck, if you queue into an aggro mirror, there's always going to be okay, so it's some sort of control list. Interesting.
Yeah,
Losing Flame Tongue is really bad for us there, but that's
it
okay.
is. It's asking no matter what if you're aggro or control, and we're definitely aggro in this matchup if he's playing that card.
Yeah, now that he showed that card, we're definitely the aggro. Um, I was kind of going into that point because I assumed he was going to be Zoo, and in that case, even though we're an aggro deck typically, we would have been on the defensive, which our hand like suited very well. But we're definitely the aggro, so we just have to take the best lines and try to get enough face damage in.
Yeah. Do you think what it's totem? Do I coin out Earth and Might?
I think that we should see what totem we get first, because if we
Okay.
get a 1/1, then we don't have to do anything.
I feel like that's a good totem to Earth and Might.
I feel like that's also an okay totem to Earthen Might, so I'm okay with coining the Earthen Might because it's pretty resilient. Um, and this sets up for next turn we can Direwolf Totem, and then he'll probably feel pressured by that, and then we can get a Corpse Taker on a much favorable position.
Yeah.
this 1/6 was gonna be actually fairly nice, but then we lost our flame tongue.
Yeah.
It's okay. We can kill it with our own mossy horror. Wait,
What? You didn't
what?
even trade.
He didn't tap. He didn't take face damage. He didn't do anything.
What's that? I don't get it.
Um, I
What should I shoot it and totem, or do I dire wolf and totem?
this is so this is where I don't have a lot to go off of because he hasn't done anything, so we don't know what deck he is. But I think we always want to kill this. It might be worth since we're setting up. Um, no, never mind. What I was about to say was really stupid. Okay, I would just Merc heal it. Yeah, I was gonna try to make a point that if we limit our um, board to mostly just totems that aren't very threatening, then he won't like do much, which means we can get our corpse taker on an empty board. But we're already gonna get our corpse taker on an empty board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have to be careful about rolling right now because it could set up the defile for him.
that is very true.
Mushroom power?
I was gonna say shroom guy. Yeah, shroom guy. Oh,
What? Oh, spellstone. That's
what?
a bad spellstone.
This is, dude. We're playing against some champs right here. What the fuck?
I feel like I get better competition when I'm playing alone. No offense.
All right, yeah,
I
definitely
think
just
tempo and corpse taker's the play.
yeah, because it's gonna have Wind Fury, Life Steal. Not that it matters, but it has Wind Fury, so it's perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're not.
We're playing against a real MVP right here.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. I'm almost positive that every turn he's taken, except for the turn where he kobold on one, was poor. Like, there's no way that his hand can be so bad that this was correct.
I think he's just trying to do the heal 7 thing. I have not experienced anything
Dude,
like this in
I'm
a very
so
long time.
lost. What is this? All right, well, um, if you dire wolf, then you can get like a really good trade on the Doomsayer and still get face damage. So I think
Yeah, I can still put 4 face.
it might also be worth since he doesn't have a defile setup to go corpse taker number two. But
Yeah,
if you do that, you open yourself up to defile hellfire.
that is true. I think the direwolf's better, and I feel like I don't roll the totem because I
Yeah,
could get a
because we
1.
could get 1/1. But yeah, I think just playing the dire wolf is fine. This is at the point where you start evaluating your resources and how much they're worth, and so he needs to AOE this board, and so we should not play. We should play the least amount of cards as possible,
I agree.
especially since basically the three cards on the left of our hand are like really bad. We need to try and get as much leverage out of them as we can. Scythe
I'm
and
fine with that play.
yeah, that doesn't affect us too badly.
I feel like this is just a good tempo play.
I feel like if our hand didn't have Corpse Taker, then that would be the right play. But I think setting up the Corpse Taker with Wind Fury again is just so much like it's so strong.
He just used really strong spot removal on it too.
Yeah, because this sets up for 8 Wind Fury damage, and then we can use the Charger next turn too. That also gets buffed by the Dire Wolf.
Yeah, I'm not gonna roll a totem again.
Yep, because we want to play Rend Defile still. Plus, if he does end up going to File Hellfire, then Argent is like our best card to just um, immediately make him have to have another answer. Oh, we get to
Do I
get,
just kill him here?
let's see, we get to get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plus 5. We can send him to 1. I'm fine with that.
And we'll have fire bloom this guy.
Yeah, so you want to, yeah, attack with that first to get the extra damage in. But yeah, this is the clear play. And this is why I wanted to set up the Corpse Taker.
No, that was a really good play on your end.
At this point, I would have been fine with toteming if you wanted to, but it doesn't matter.
What the fuck is he playing?
Well, that
Like,
that came from his demonic project on turn
oh,
two.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was question. That was definitely not the right play. Let's see what's he got. He can't Hellfire because he would die.
I just can't figure out why he would demonic project turn 2 on an aggro deck.
Yeah, it's what? Okay.
Okay, we
That
win.
yeah, unless
He like sack packs here?
I was gonna say unless he has sack pack. Okay. I mean, I take that. That's a good win.
Yeah, kind of.
I would typically want to. This is where I would normally want to go look at our list, but it's been doing like we've played against opposition that doesn't really even count.
Yeah,
So I think we should do
I
one more game, and then we'll go and talk about lists.
okay, sounds good.
Because a lot of the cards in your list that I'm like looking at as potentially removing, we haven't even seen, as the game's just like ended so fast.
Yeah, this is not a good matchup.
This is probably not a good matchup, yeah.
This is like my worst matchup, honestly.
There's a Rush Warrior going around, so if it's that, then we have a much better chance. But this is a matchup that I'm really glad we ran into during the coaching session. Um, I think that it's too weak to keep that.
I feel like my hand's too weak to keep that in general.
Yeah, if we had set up already, then it might have been okay. Oh
Oh,
yikes!
this is a bad hand.
This is gonna be.
This is good. Yeah, I lose.
I
I'll
mean,
play it out for the
yeah,
sake of the video, but
we'll play it out. We'll see what we can do. Your deck luckily does have like quite a bit of top end to it, so we have we have outs. It's just gonna be hard.
yeah.
Ooh, that makes it even harder because it gives him a win condition.
And he's playing primarily taunts. Do
Yeah.
I flame tongue here?
So, um, I would say no, because I'm thinking way long game because we're against Odd Warrior. At some point we'll have an Alakir, and we can flame tongue the Alakir to get 4 extra charge damage in,
Okay.
which might be important for controlling the board or for hitting face.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is one of the matchups that went back to the AoE resource thing we were talking about earlier. If we can get him to waste AoE on primarily like a board with 4 totems and like a card or two, then that's really good for us. That's kind of how we win this matchup. Is
Okay.
we save as many threats as we can and make him AoE as little as possible.
I wonder if I still don't play flame tongue. I'm not going to.
Yeah, especially now that we attacked. I think that if we still draw like pretty poorly, we can think about putting it in as the like the 1 or 2 real cards that he wants to AOE. Okay, cool. So I think our line is to just totem pass. He probably won't AOE this, and then we can set up a Sea Giant.
Okay. You don't think flame tongue, since we have this healing totem's good at all?
Um, I
Because
think
he'd just be AoEing a board full of totems with one flame tongue.
that's true. I'm okay with that. We can do that. I tunnel visioned a little bit on making sure we got a Sea Giant next turn, because if he AoEs this, we obviously can't get a Sea Giant, but if he AoEs it, that's good for us anyway.
I wonder if the card that if you have 4 totems up, summon Alakir. Is that a even or odd cost
No,
card?
that's a 5 mana card, unfortunately.
Oh, that's really disappointing.
Yeah, no, that was one of the first things that I wanted to make work, and then realized obviously it wouldn't work. Oh wow, what? Um, that
Okay.
that was yikes. All
That
right,
was a weird turn.
I'm glad we did that flame tongue play that you wanted. That was really good for us.
I feel like this isn't good. I feel like chancing this is best.
I feel like that's good too. It gives us more resources. because this matchup's all about resource management, and so
Ooh, we
figuring
get
out what we get is
this. This
good.
is good for next turn.
That is really good for next turn. Yeah. There's so many cool elementals. I remember when Elemental Shaman was like the main deck.
I really like that Elemental Mage as a deck. I think it's a cool deck.
Hmm. How do we deal with this guy? Okay.
I mean, I can Argent trade. I don't want to let this guy keep growing.
Yeah, I don't want to let him grow, and also I think Hex is going to be much more valuable in a big taunt later, so I think just argenting and trading is fine. Because all of our other plays are like fairly weak, and this removes his like major threat.
Yeah.
And again, if he gets scared of a 4-2, then that's good for us.
I think playing this in Earthen Might is probably best
Mm,
because it
okay.
activates this for next turn if need be, and like this, I miss a damage. I like overkill at a damage if I decide to do this.
Okay. I think that your Fire of Plume Earthen Might turn is pretty good. Did you consider Mossy this turn, since he might not have many to attack minions?
I'm thinking about the Echo one.
Oh, the Phantom Militia. Okay. Then yeah, I like your Fire Plume play. And then you're gonna Fire Plume your your Elemental to get the extra Elemental. Oh.
Should I not have done that?
No, I was just looking at the Elemental
Oh,
we got.
yeah, useless.
I mean, do we have any Overload in the deck? Oh hey look, he runs this card.
That's I think that's a cool card.
I think that's a cool card too. Alright, let's see what we can do. Um
We can Direwolf and trade. I don't think that's particularly good.
I think that hmm
We can Direwolf set up a Sea Giant.
I think that I would normally want to go for setting up the Sea Giant and trading, but we also, if we play Sea Giant, he can just Shield Slam it right now because he has so much armor,
Yeah.
which makes this turn fairly difficult. I think that since we don't want our Sea Giant to get Shield Slammed, we might just want to play Bonfire and see what we draw into. Ew.
That's
Okay. Um, this is a fairly threatening board, and if he Reckless Flurry number twos, then his 6/6 dies. I'd be okay with just toteming and hitting him in the face for 5.
what about Alpha?
I I think we should hold it back because I think this board is threatening enough to warrant AoE.
Okay. That's actually one thing that like I struggle with. Like I probably would have made that trade,
Yeah, I
particularly
was
in
I was really considering it. Because I'm definitely like you, where my trading is super inconsistent. That's something that I would have to work on. Um, but I think that getting this 5 damage in and forcing him to trade into us or use that to like let it die to AoE is fine. Because we're still at 30, so if he hits us for 6 and then like brawls, or hits us for 6 and then reckless flurries, it really is like a non-factor.
okay, that's true.
Because our 6 health is worth less than his 5 health. Okay, that's really weak. That's also fairly weak. So this is going to be a really good turn for us. How do you think you'd go about this?
I could just Hagatha. Like that is totally just an option.
I
Um,
do not see Hagatha as the play.
I don't see Hagatha as the play too. I think it's open for option. I think shooting this with this is good, and laying down like Direwolf Alpha.
Yes, so you have the right idea. Let's see. Start to play out the turn, but don't play any cards yet. Let me like, what would your sequencing of cards be this turn?
I think I shoot with Eel, play Direwolf Alpha. I think I actually do kill this with this and put the Direwolf Alpha here. Um, I think Sea Giant's the also like a pretty good play.
Yes. Okay. I want you really quick. Okay, Direwolf in between the two O2s. Then play Sea Giant on the far left. Merc Spark the 3/2, and then I would make this double trade with however you want. Normally I wouldn't like tell you stuff, but I don't want you to rope out.
Do you,
Yeah, I would trade that one, and then Healing Totem in face, and then Totem. That's okay.
I missed the totem.
All right. So
These things
this
happen.
this was the sequence because by playing the dire wolf first, you got an extra mana on your or off your Sea Giant because it
Yeah,
didn't. It was a minion you were gonna play that didn't kill one of his immediately, like the Mercspark Eagle would have. Ooh, and he had to
he's gonna
use.
reckless.
That's good. He's out of Reckless Flurries.
Yep.
He has double Shield Slam and potentially two brawls, but potentially one brawl. What's it called? We'll go back to that turn later. Let's just continue playing the game because I want to go back and
Yeah,
explain that turn more.
that was a hard turn, but like, yeah, I
Yeah,
think tempoing Greymane's not bad here.
I think that Greymane is your best play. Just Greymane Totem. You know, for being at turn 10, the Odd Warrior has no armor, two quest progress, and we have a handful of like fairly large cards. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
We've definitely gone about this the right way.
I'd have to agree. Oh, and we saved it.
We did save it. This was a good call by you because I wouldn't have thought of this. This is perfect.
Do I play Flame Tongue Totem after I
I
Mossy?
Yes, I like pushing the Flame Tongue Totem damage this turn because it's like your board isn't. Oh, we do kill the 1/1. Eh. Okay, now it's kind of iffy if you want to.
Yeah,
I would save it now that we killed the 1/1 because we don't get to push the extra 3 damage. Um, and that 2/7, if you buff it up to a 4/7, is actually like worthwhile in trades.
I agree.
Oh, hey, we got our 1/1 back. Oh, that's unlucky. We didn't. I mean, there was no way to position around that, but that's kind of annoying.
That was just a good turn from him.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well for him. Okay.
I think shooting this and playing Vicious Scale Hide.
I think that that's fine. Yeah. There's something to be said to keep Scale Hide to use with Flame Tongue later if we think that we can ping something for 3, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that he plays that has 3 health, so this is definitely correct.
Yeah. Should I play a totem, play the this, and then play the Scale Hide on the other side because of Super Glider?
Well, your Scale Hide's gonna die anyway, so it doesn't really.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But it's not like any totem is really gonna affect your Fire Elemental that much. Rolling Taunt here is pretty good too, because,
He has to attack it, and it doesn't do anything.
yeah. I don't think there's anything you could really use to set up, um, like having the 6/5 die with his Super Glider, but getting the Taunt is just good because it forces him to hit. Cool. He wasted us Charger Super Glider to kill a token. That's really, really good for us.
Yeah. That's a little unfortunate that he had a second one of those.
Okay, so that's one of the hex
That's our
targets.
Hex.
Yeah, because that'll help him in the fatigue match. Because we don't draw any cards with this deck, so we actually can like take him to fatigue.
Yeah. Hex,
We're ahead
Corpse
in
Taker.
fatigue actually. Yeah, I would hex Corpse Taker. It feels bad to throw this Corpse Taker out because it's just gonna die, but it sets up for our Hagatha to clear his 3/4.
I'm gonna totem.
Yeah, there's no reason not to totem. And if you get a 1/1, it pops the Divine Shield, but the attack already pops the Divine Shield, so.
Yeah. And I'm gonna need to start generating resources from Hagatha to win this matchup.
Yep. That's why it felt bad to play that Corpse Taker, but it got rid of the last super charge, so
This isn't good.
I mean,
Oh wait, he already completed
it's
the quest a while
yeah.
ago.
I'm
I
surprised he
forgot.
didn't just go for the weapon to get the damage face. This is an easy turn. Just Hagatha.
I play the Flame Tongue, right?
Dude, obviously. You need that random spell ASAP.
Maybe I can get some overchar or yeah,
Overload somehow.
overchar overload.
I don't think. Let me look at our list that we're running. I don't think we run anything that has it, but we might get it off the Hagatha.
Yeah.
Yeah, our deck itself doesn't run anything with overload. See, I'm surprised he didn't do this last turn because we'd be so much lower, you know?
Yeah, I felt like the militia was like a little much.
Alright.
I'm gonna play Corpse Taker Sea Giant.
4, 5, 6. If you're gonna do that, then you can get a Flame Tongue in for free, which serves as an extra 8/8 target.
Okay, so throw out the Flame Tongue. Yeah.
Yeah, start with that because it will give you the most mana for a spell. Nice. That's actually not like awful. It's not good, but ooh, that's really good. I play Sea Giant still though.
I'm gonna play the
Yeah, I would
Zero.
definitely.
I'm
Oh
gonna
my
play
god,
both
play
of them.
both of them. Let's go. Woo!
Tank up.
Oh, we drew Alec here, so our Corpse Taker like hella sucked though.
Oh yeah,
Oof. That's that makes this play still correct by far, but it feels a lot
less
worse.
good.
Oh
That's
no.
sad.
All right,
Why is
hopefully.
he
Oh,
trading
he
it? I
shielded.
guess for the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. I don't think anything saves us, but we can try for a Battlecry minion.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Giggling Inventor. Nerfed
Be the hero
card.
we need.
Oh, and we get to Earthen Might a taunt guy. Woo! Damn, he had a those Phantom Militias not dying to Hagatha like was really good for him because it meant that he couldn't contest our or he had stuff to contest our board.
I've always thought that these were like a little overstated for being Echo.
Why did he do this?
Yeah, I don't feel like that.
I
I
mean,
get. Oh,
it
it
didn't
gives him
really matter, but
the lethal.
I'm pretty sure he I'm pretty sure he had lethal either way. That's unlucky.
Like that's one of my worst matchups, so I expect to lose it.
Yeah, that's an awful matchup. But I think we played that matchup like really well. There was no turn that we didn't ever miss damage. We didn't throw a turn by doing something like completely wrong. Um,
Yeah.
Later on, because I don't have access to it right now, but after the coaching session like would officially end, we can go back in the VOD and review that one turn. Because there was that one swing turn from us that I think we could have played better. Or I wanted to explain the sequencing of.
No, I understand the sequencing. Get the Sea Giant as low as you can. I just wasn't. I was like tunnel visioning super hard on the right side of my hand and wasn't thinking about Sea Giant.
Yeah. All right. So I say we go look at your list, and we'll talk about what the core of even shaman looks like. And actually, let me, because you sent over the list, if the game is willing, because I hadn't touched anything, so I have to relaunch the game without it crashing. I'll actually go into my collection and start with our list, and then I'll screen share to you so that we can see like what the core of the list would look like and what our text slots look like.
Okay.
Because it's a lot easier for me to show you than to try to explain it by you going through. So there we go. So let's Discord screen share to you. There you go. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yep.
Right. So let's go in here. We'll copy paste your code to start with what you got.
Have you seen any of the new cards by chance?
Oh, did new cards get revealed today?
Yeah, some new cards are on Reddit.
Ooh, I'll have to go check. I knew that it ends up being that like Rakastan's brawl that Reddit was talking about, right?
Yeah, it's totally pirates and trolls.
Okay, cool. But no, I haven't looked at any of it. That'll be fun to look at in a minute. All right, so this is the list that we started with. Let's see. Let's look at what we think is core to this list. Anything that we're running one of is not core, is a pretty good place to start.
Okay.
And then this is core because we have to run it to be even, but I think that you can remove all the late game to start with. So, these
Even
are,
sea giants.
I mean, Sea Giant
I feel
is
like sea
definitely
giants
core,
are like
yeah.
actually pretty core to this list.
Yeah, dang, this is going,
It's a big thing.
it is a big thing. This is definitely not like the only core cards. This is just how I wanted to start looking at it. But yeah,
Okay.
let's go add back in Sea Giants and Lich King because those are the best late game cards in the deck. Sea Giant, Lich King, and Sea Giant. So, I think that this is the core list of cards that you need because this gives you decent early game. Direwolf is like, it's not super strong, but it's definitely like an okay um, early game minion. I could say that if you really wanted to, you could make this not core and find a different replacement. Earthen Might's good because it's something to buff your turn 1 totem. Flame Tongue is good because you're an aggro deck. Merc Spark is part of the reason you play Even Shaman. Corpse Taker is one of the major win conditions, and to enable that, we have to run Alakir. So we have to go.
Yeah.
That forces Alakir into core. Fire Plume is since we're running Alakir and we're gonna have Fire Plumes in there, and if you look at all the 2 drops, the only ones that we can really consider running, let's see. We can have this guy if we want. We can have this guy if we want. We can have this card, but it's really bad. We can have this card, this card, this card, this card, this card. Obviously, some of these would never go into our deck in the first place, but this is just to see the kind of 2 drops we're looking at. Um, this does not fit our deck at all. This does not really fit our deck at all. This doesn't fit our deck. This doesn't fit our deck. Primal Fin is worth considering as a 2 drop in our deck. Um, Ooze is always worth considering, especially in this meta, because there's a lot of weapons going around. This card
I've
is
been
worth
thinking.
considering. Um, None of this is really worth considering, but I've seen people try around with this. I'm not sure how strong it really is, but it's a card you can run. There's Knife Juggler. Um, and that's going to look like most of the 2 drops that are playable. We can also run this. I've seen some people that run more of a more of a mid game, late game focused list run this because it helps you get your 4 drops out a turn earlier. So let's remove the shitty cards. We're gonna say that this is bad. This is kind of worth like testing out, I think, because it can be okay. Burlock even is kind of worth considering because in other like aggro matchups, getting the tempo from them not being able to trade with you for a turn is really strong.
Okay.
This is not worthwhile. Ooze, it's worth considering, but I think that in the end it doesn't make the cut. And Knife Juggler, we talked about earlier, it's been getting cut because it's so inconsistent. And right now, you really, if you're playing an aggro deck, you need a consistently very strong start. So it's not worth running either.
Okay.
Um,
I like Menacing Nibus because of the resource generation, even if you do sometimes roll the 11 drop elemental.
oh yeah, it's definitely rolling that 11 drop is the worst case scenario, so it's not worth considering too much. Um, I think Menacing Nimbus is definitely a card that is really good because it enables you to get more resources, which can be a problem, and also it sets up for elemental synergy, which is something we're going to go into once we figure out our 2 drop situation. Um, Primal Fin is interesting because it's been considered core like for most of Even Shaman's existence because it turns out a 2 mana 1/4 that can keep scaling is really good. But in this particular meta, it's pretty weak. It opens like it's good in some aggro matchups, kind of, but Odd Rogue just kills it without really any issue. Um, Odd
It
Paladin,
sets up defiles too.
Yeah, against even Warlock, it sets up Defiles. It really, I think in this meta, it's definitely not worth running, cause just the body itself doesn't do enough, and then the 1/1 tokens are so easy to clear up right now. And really, the only synergy you have right now with the 1/1 tokens is like Flame Tongue, Direwolf, which we're considering potentially cutting, and then Sea Giant. But Sea Giant has so many better like targets, I guess. You know,
Yeah,
it's not very often where your Primal Fin on turn two is going to set up your Sea Giant on like turn five.
I definitely did find like the games we were playing, Primal Fin was like a dead card in hand. We almost never learned to play it.
Yeah, so I think that we don't run Primal Fins. If we're not running Primal Fins, that disables Direwolf. Like that makes it even worse, because you can use Direwolf to buff up your totems to 1/2s, but that's not particularly strong. And buffing what used to be the 1/1 tokens into 2/1s is okay, but again, in this meta, I don't think it's worth really considering. And since we're not running Direwolf, that makes this card like it was already meme tier, but it was worth considering, and I think that just completely ruins it. So goodbye to Cloak Scale Chemist.
Okay.
Cloak Scale Chemist, you almost made it into a deck.
Oh, it
So
makes it into a lot of arena decks, so
you right, you
it can
right.
live there.
I
How do you feel
think
about Bone Marin's deck? I know we're looking at like low cost cards right now.
I think that initial thoughts, because we haven't, I'm not like super into it. I think that it's worth maybe running as a one of, but because it enables your totems to be quite big in the late game, which is really good. I'm not sure if it's going to be a core two of though.
Okay,
I
I
think
agree with that.
I think that now that we've nailed our two drops that aren't core, down to Menacing Nimbus and Burlock, and then maybe this guy, these are what we're considering as our flex two slots.
Okay.
So these are the two drops that are worth considering playing. Let's see if we missed anything else, because it turns out there's a lot more two drops that I missed, but I don't think any of these are very good. Um,
I'd agree.
this
Vicious
is
Scale Hide, maybe.
Spark Engine is like meme tier, but worth considering because it gives you the 1/1 that has synergy with Flame Tongue. But in this meta, that's not going to do enough. If we were in a more aggro dominant meta, I think that that card could see play in this list. Um, Scale Height as a one of is worth considering because it's good in the aggro matchups because it enables your Corpse Taker to have lifesteal. Because you can sometimes get like out aggroed, and so that 6 damage that your Corpse Taker eats up, it takes with Divine Shield it'll take a ping and then 3 damage, and then you'll heal 6 because of its 3 attack with lifesteal. So Vicious Scale Height is worth considering. I don't think that a 1/3 stat line is good enough to run two of, though, even if it does
Right.
enable your Corpse Taker. So, since we've decided that, at least with this first iteration of the list, we're going to remove stuff like Direwolf, that makes our early game um, less good, which means that we should probably end up considering running double of this guy, because it means that we can play our 4 drops on turn 3, which enables our mid game to be stronger. So
Okay.
your list is a good starting point. This list is going to go from that into a more like mid-rangey resource focused list, because a lot of the time when you're playing even shaman, um, you have to be able to put on enough pressure to kill control and combo decks, but in aggro matchups you're typically the defender, so I think that strengthening that while also giving yourself better bodies against control decks is the way that we want to approach this.
I actually really like the addition of pint-sized summoner because you don't see it a lot, and people might not know how to handle it.
That's true too. It's worth sometimes it's worth considering giving a couple percentage points to like whether you run a card or not based on the surprise factor. Because if you're running an off meta card, then people will like allocate more resources to killing it because they're scared of what it can enable. Um, so especially like right now we're in kind of a tight race between pint sized and like Burlock, and so I think that since we've decided on double pint size to make the mid game early or mid game better, then Burlock can probably get cut now.
Okay.
it might be worth considering. For now, I'm going to cut this Menacing Nimbus because we haven't decided whether or not we're going to go down running that, even though it's a resource generator. Because it's okay. Um, it enables elemental synergies, but we haven't really added any elemental synergy to the deck. And so it might be worth considering running something like Burlock, which is better in the aggro matchups, over that.
Okay.
Because if we're making our mid game better, then we don't need as much resource generation against control decks, because our mid game is already going to be strong enough to compensate.
If we're making this more of a mid-range focus, how do you feel about adding a one of the Defender of Argus?
Um, Defender of Argus is good to hit on. It's okay on Mercspark. It's okay on Pint Sized. Um, it's good on some of our later game bodies. I think that this is worth considering for sure. So we'll throw in one of those to consider it for now. Um, we have really no synergy with any of these cards. So there's slight synergy with this because you get the 1/1s for the Sea Giant, but that's not worth considering, I don't think. Um, this card is interesting because we are we're even shaman, so we're still hoping, especially if we go and add those burlocks really quick. Let's pretend these are in the list. That gives us quite a bit of 2 drops, and so we can consider, like, we can assume that we're going to have the board early game. And so if we play this, it becomes a 4 mana. If everything hits us, that's a 3/2 +3/3, so 6/5, which is really crazy stats. Because if you're looking at Gen, he's already a 6/5, and um, he's not bad to play by himself. So this might be worth considering if we're going down this path.
Like a more of a buff board path? Okay.
Because if we go for more of a like board buffy path, it also allows, like, it plays around AOE a lot more. Because a lot of the early game AOE is very specific, like 2 or 3 damage. And so if we're able to buff health, then that can be really good.
Okay, I'll consider it.
Um, I don't see any reason to run any of these cards. We have no Death Rattle synergy in our deck.
What about Spellbreaker? Just talk about it. Do you feel like it's needed in this deck, or do you feel like it's kind of a wasted slot?
I think that Spellbreaker, um, in this meta, Spellbreaker is pretty good for control decks. I think that the stat line is just not strong enough for us to play as a deck that, even though we're, like, right now we're making it more mid-range and control-y compared to the list we started with, it still is essentially like a mid-range or aggro deck. We're just trying to improve our aggro versus aggro matchup by making it more mid-range. Um, Spellbreaker does the same job as Hex, kind of, because you can hex anything that you want to Spellbreaker. Um, and so Spellbreaker is just kind of worse, you know. We already
Okay,
have we already have transform effects which stop death rattles or powerful effects, and that's what Spellbreaker does, but it leaves a body behind for them. And so we want this is much more efficient than a Spellbreaker would be. It's worth considering because, like, obviously Hex has the implication that you can use it on a big minion with no text. Um, and just having the redundancy effect of Spellbreaker as another silence is okay. But I don't think that it's going to end up making the cut.
okay.
None of these are particularly good. All right. So it looks like our 4 slot is going to be dominated by Mad Hatter and Defender of Argus as our two, like, choices. Um, I think that a 1 above Defender of Argus is good for the aggro mirror matchups, and so it's worth having. I think that if we're going down this really weird, like, kind of wonky path, because essentially our perfect curve right now is Totem into Pint Size into a 4 drop. The best 4 drop is Corpse Taker, followed by what would be Mad Hatter. So I'm going to try and say that Mad Hatter is good in Even Shaman if you go for a more mid range approach.
Okay.
Now, obviously, this is all contingent on the fact that we removed a lot of what is typically core early game. Um, that's obvious. Like, if you're looking at your starter list, that's definitely just good to jam. But part of what um, is so like interesting to me about Hearthstone is that you can change things around that seem so like just completely crazy and still have good results or even better results against certain things. So no matter how we change a deck list, we're never going to increase like its win percentage from like 8 or from like 40% to or like 45% to 50% or like 45% to like 60%. That's like a big leap, you know? We're just looking to get those edge cases whenever you're trying to refine a deck with your like tech or flex slots.
Okay.
I kind of stumbled over my words there. The point was by refining a deck list and learning what's core, you're not going to jump from like a 30% win rate to like an 80% win rate just because you changed out a couple slots, but you are going to be able to change how certain matchups are played out, which will give you the edge against someone that just has a typical net deck. That's
And
the
I
point.
agree with that. I think it's about playing in the margins. A lot of games are like this where you don't win like outright where it's like 80% of the time my win rate's just better than you. It's like I win but like 4% of these trades, so I win overall. Or
E-
win 4% more of these trades.
exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to get across. That's kind of why like sometimes some of the things that people with new lists bring like they seem so obvious in retrospect, but no one ever considers them because when you're looking at it, like those few percentage points might not seem important, but because of how the meta is run, it really impacts a matchup that's actually like super important. Doo-doo-doo. So we've done our 2 drop slot and changed it around a bit. We've done our 4 drop spot and changed it around a bit, even though it's a little bit, questionable on whether this works in practice. In theory, like this should be helping you understand how to evaluate cards and how to
Yeah.
look at edge cases where cards that might not seem good really do impact certain matchups.
I'm
Um,
gonna play one Mad Hatter. I don't like the two Mad Hatter. I think that's too conditional. I think it's a pretty conditional card.
I I definitely agree with you, especially because part of what we're doing here is trying to improve the mid to late game, and so running 2 of this improves our mid game, or running 1 of this improves our mid game enough to where it matters in the matchups where it matters, but in other matchups, like control matchups, we need bigger bodies. And so now that we're getting into the 6 drop slot, cards that are worth considering are like Argent Commander that we were already running. Um, it's still pretty strong. We still have Flame Tongue's energy. Charge as a mechanic is just really good. If you look at all the charge minions in the game, a lot of them have either been nerfed or their base stats are just so bad that you don't want to play them in the first place. And that's because it turns out having instant damage that can also go face if you're in a position where that matters is really, really good. Like, really
I
premium.
definitely think Leroy's gonna get Hall of Fame next rotation.
I think that Leroy is definitely going to be hit with something at some point. It's already been nerfed like twice in Hearthstone history, so I see no reason for it to ever like. I don't think it's gonna stay how it is because it's already being run in like Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue. Sometimes it's still used as a finisher occasionally in like Tempo Rogue. So I think right now it's at a decent spot though, but I could definitely see them hating it because they really hate or they really like changing charge cards.
I definitely think Charge is like it feels more fair
Let's
from
see.
just like a player perspective. You have to think of this as like a game design. How do we keep players keep playing the game and like that? I don't think Karen's good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Karen hasn't been good in a long time.
You're definitely hitting me there with some truth. I think that Karen is pretty bad, but I'm looking at 6 drops overall and eight
What about
drops.
Black Knight or like
Hmm. I'm looking at something like this. So you run 1 Argent because charge is really good. We've saw in the couple games we played that Argent every time we played it felt really good because it was able to make that final push for damage and it's a big threat because it can still be used for trading as well, you know. So Argent is
Yeah.
definitely good. Um, and then we need to look for late game. We used to run Kalamos in this slot, and also Hagatha. We took out Hagatha, which probably, I mean, I said at the beginning that I think Hagatha is like really good, and it is really good, but we're already improving our aggro matchup, so we don't need the extra board clear, was my idea behind that.
I agree. Are we gonna just remove Mossy Horror? Because every time I played it, I still haven't won because of it.
Yeah, I took out Mossy Horror, and I replaced it with this Bone Mare.
Okay.
I think that this is looking like much more of a, like, you can still put on pressure, which is what Even Shaman looks to do, but you're able to control the aggro matchups more effectively, and then you have a couple like bigger bombs. So Defender itself isn't a bomb, but if you ever stick something big, giving it +1/+1 that your opponent's not considering can be really good. Um, you add in a Bone Mare because it makes your one of your turns in the late game with a totem. It's a like 9 mana 9/9 turn plus whatever totem body you get. So it's like a 9 mana 10/10, and this can be used obviously like before that to actually make the buff have charge. So Bone Mare seems
Okay.
pretty good. Um, I think that if you're looking, if we were gonna go in more of a mid range focus, this is definitely kind of the list we're looking for. Um, it might be worth considering cutting these just because we don't have as much like turn one and turn two synergy. But I think it's just so good in. It's just such a big bomb that can come out early, so it's worth keeping.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is more. This is mid-range even shaman. We had the more aggro mid-range shaman with yours. So let me get your list again. And then I think it's worth just while we're here taking a look at what more of a like control even shaman would look like. And then
Okay.
by looking at all three lists side to side, you'd be able to get a good understanding of why certain cards, like how certain cards change certain matchups. So this is aggro even shaman. And it's also worth considering we can go in an even more like a more aggro sense. So actually we should look at that because control even shaman I haven't looked at, but I feel like it's going to be awful. So let's look at more of a aggressive even shaman. So if we're playing to like get more aggressive, we want to kill them faster. Calamos is probably too late. Hagatha is probably too late. Mossy Horror doesn't do enough. Um, Menacing Nimbus doesn't do enough. Direwolf is meh. It might not be worth running. Um, and then these are all fine. So I think this for your typical even shaman list. Oh, we can cut this guy really quick too. These are your core 25 cards. Um, if you want just a starting point. So
No, I agree. These are definitely the core 25.
yeah, every deck, every archetype is gonna have core cards, and typically it's between like 19 to like 26 cards. So finding somewhere in between there, those cards are like pretty frigid. I guess like technically this guy's not core because you run one of. This is a one of, but it's still core because it gives your Corpse Taker lifesteal, which is important in aggro matchups. But yeah, this is a good basis to start if you ever want to tinker with this list again.
Okay.
So if we want to go in a more aggressive style, that means that we want to take advantage of um, buffs, attack buffs, and getting Sea Giants out early, which means we want token synergy. If we want token synergy, turns out a 2 mana 1/4 that makes infinite tokens is pretty good. So double Primal Fin in a more aggressive version of this list seems pretty mandatory. And then since we're going aggressive, we're not really looking to add anything in the late game. Our late game is pretty strong by itself with Fire Elementals as burst and also as a big body. Sea Giants come out earlier than you expect. Lich King's the best card for the late game that's in the game right now, basically. Um, Alakir is a pretty big bomb, especially with Flame Tongue, and it also enables Corpse Taker, so we can't remove it. So now we're looking to get cards that function with Flame Tongue Totem, or that buff our early game minions,
I
or the
think that's
tokens.
Defender of Argus.
I think Defender is worth considering, yeah. It's always worth if you're playing an aggro deck considering this guy, or an even deck really, because a 2 mana 2/3 against aggro decks, it doesn't die to a single odd rogue hero power, which is really important right now. It can help clear off little things, and then it becomes a larger body, which can be very threatening. So that's why stuff like Even Paladin runs this, because it turns out a 2 mana 2/3 that then becomes like a 2 mana 5/1 once you trade is really strong. So I think that if you're going more aggro, Amani Berserker is like really, really good.
Okay.
Um, you can consider a Knife Juggler, but again, it's inconsistent, and we want something that's stronger by itself.
I
Uh,
think if we're gonna go try to fill it with a one slot, I do think Defender's the way to go. It's an extra 4 drop, which we're kind of weak on right now. It buffs our guys that we're generating a lot of.
I think that in this more aggro version, there's 3 4 drops that I'm looking at as like, well, four, but one is really bad, but it will still consider it. I think that the 4 4 drops that we can consider for this last slot are going to be Sneaky Devil, because he gives all of our minions that we're already hoping to buff attack. So in the early game, we want to buff their attack already with Direwolf, Earthen Might, Flame Tongue, stuff like that. This gives that Direwolf +1 attack. It kind of serves as giving it +2, because you get the extra, like the stacking buff on it, which can be strong. We're considering the Mad Hatter that we talked about, because its stats give both aggressive and defensive stats. So you get the health on your minions, which is good versus AoE against like control decks, and the attack is good against control decks as well. And the health will help you trade against aggro decks. We're considering Grim Necromancer, because if we're going in this more aggressive version, we want Sea Giants out as early as possible and getting tokens for Flame Tongue, and so this helps both of those avenues. And then we're thinking Defender of Argus potentially, because it can help. It kind of, in this more aggressive version, I feel like it does the same thing that Mad Hatter would do. It just more consist like Mad Hatter's inherently less consistent, so this is a more consistent but weaker Mad Hatter. But those would be the
I
four.
think consistency is better than like having that consistency is actually better, and it makes it like a little bit better of a card
I would tend to
than Mad
agree.
Hatter.
It also it's much better in the situation where you hit something in the late game or something like a Serenite. It's also worth considering Dark Iron Dwarf. This was back when Even Shaman was like super popular. It was tested as both a one and a two of, and two of turned out to be really bad, but one of kind of stuck for a little bit. It was there for it was in Even Shaman lists for about like 2 tournaments, and then it started getting cut again. So it's always worth considering cards that used to be flexed in, but I think this is too weak. Defender's definitely worth considering. Grim Necromancer's kind of too much of a pipe dream card than an actual one, so I don't think it's worth seriously considering. But you never know, like especially if those tokens would end, like if we got into like a more mid-rangey meta, this would be worth considering because the extra tokens to get buffed would be really good. Um, Mad Hatter, if you want more blowout potential than Defender of Argus, then I think you go with this. But Defender's typically the better choice. Um, and then meme card that has like slight value.
I actually really like Sneaky Devil. I think that's actually like not a bad idea.
I would be okay with cutting, like trying that out. I think that if we wanted to test this out while also testing Defender, um, we could get rid of
I
just.
think we get rid of an Armani, actually. I know
Um,
you love that card. It sounds like you absolutely adore it, but I'm not a huge fan given we can't really activate it that well.
I could see that. I also think that Amani is really good, specifically in Even Shaman, because you have this buff that's so cheap. So it becomes a 2 mana 2/3, 4 mana 4/5 that still gets the enrage. Flame Tongue can make it really scary. I think that if you're going this more aggressive style, and even in just typical Even Shaman that we had, this might be worth considering over something like Direwolf. Because
Oh,
in
okay.
our more in this original list, um, Direwolf doesn't do that much because it doesn't have that much synergy surrounding it, which is what we're trying to supplement with the other list with putting in stuff like Defender, stuff like the Sneaky Devil that we're testing out. So I think in this list you might actually just go double Armani over Direwolf, and I think that that might just be straight up better.
Okay. Okay. I can see that. There was definitely a lot of times where like we were thinking about playing Direwolf and we were like, no, that's bad.
Yeah, and then again, actually, now that I'm surprised we didn't catch this the first run through. I think Armani just goes instead of that shitty two drop that we had in any version of this deck.
Yeah, I felt like Burlock didn't really fit. I didn't say anything, but I should have.
The only thing I was considering it with, its stat line is not good enough because what we're looking for in two drops is things that don't die to the rogue hero power. I was thinking it sets up a situation where you freeze their hench clan thug so that you have a turn to try to develop your board more to then deal with it, but it's too weak. So I think that something like this is probably better. Um, we're keeping double flame tongue because we're going for the extra like attack buff. Maybe just getting rid of like one fire plume and going all in on testing the sneaky devil with all the token synergy is worthwhile. I think something like this is worth considering for like a more aggressive even shaman.
No, this has actually really helped. Like, I haven't just. I have a hard time discussing deck building with like the one friend I have who plays this game.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of what made me want to do this is that I don't have a very large community around me of friends that play this game, and so finding more people to be able to just bounce ideas off of, talk to, stuff like that is really good.
Yeah, I think the discussion helps more than the actual like do play. Like, look, playing the game obviously helps, but like you get to a certain point where playing the game, you end up in vicious circles and in bad habits, and the discussion helps you break those bad habits.
I totally agree. But yeah, so I think that looking at all three of these lists, this is what we started with, except we put in Armani Berserker over Direwolf because I think that it ends up probably just being better. Um, this is a great list. Um, it it covers all of its bases. It has cards that win the game in a lot of different situations. Um, Calamos is probably the worst card in the list, just because you don't have a super amount of synergy with it.
I agree.
But sometimes, you just need another bomb. I think that that's something to do too when you net deck a list is always try to find the like two or three weakest cards, and that's what you can kind of think about switching out. So like Calamos, Mossy Horror, and like a one of Primal Fin is pretty bad. So that's why we ended up cutting that when we originally did this. And then I think this is a more typical, or no, this is a like a bit of a weirder style you can go in, because this is the Mad Hatter Bone Mare Defender Vargas one. But it's interesting to think about. And then I think that if you're really trying to like, I think this is the list you want if you're going for pure like best list we made. And then this is a slot you can get rid of. Um, but
I
this
think
is
if we
pretty good.
find out that the Sneaky Devil's better, like that would get cut for Sneaky Devil.
Yeah. And then I think this is worth testing because it has some weird cards in it. But like, if you just go Direwolf minus Sneaky Devil, then you have three slots, and then this is like your new core. So we used to have a 25 core, we now have a 27 core. I don't know exactly what we added. Oh, we had double Primal Fin. So like, this is pretty typical now. And that's the most
Yeah,
important thing about learning a deck and how to optimize is what its core is, and then just putting in whatever you feel is good. So that's
Okay.
pretty
Do you
much.
want to play a game now?
Yeah, so let's do one list with. You want to try out this Sneaky Devil list, and then we'll call it a day?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. And then I think this had an extra Phoenix in it. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, let's do one game of this, and then we can call it a night.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen with you?
It's being shared.
Oh, it is? Okay.
But yeah, I think that this was I didn't expect trying to tinker with Even Shaman to be like that interesting, but I think that actually going in and trying to make that more mid-range version was really cool, and then finding these cards that you can test out to see like if they improve the list is as important as knowing how to play the list by itself, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so what you thinking?
I think keeping Sea Giant isn't that bad, particularly if this is Dude Paladin. Um, I think keeping these two is pretty good.
I think that so you have to think about the new list that we have. We have double Sneaky Devil, so that helps buff our tokens. We have the Defender, which is good with tokens, and we're gonna be against Paladin, which even if it's even, odd, or typical, it's gonna make 1/1 tokens. So Sea Giant's really strong. This entire hand is like really good because the Primal Fin helps with our token game plan. Merc really good in the game, like just for the deck, and then Sea Giant is high roll potential.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool. So this Sea Giant is going to be really, really good.
Yep.
Ooh, Flame Tongue's really strong too, because that enables our totem and our Primal Fin totem to attack. Okay, so he's going for a. Is that a Blessing of Might or an Archerous Veteran? Oh,
Blessing of Might.
Blessing of Might. Interesting. Alright, so we get decisions right off the start.
I think Primal Fin's probably the best thing. He'll be forced to trade into it. We have a dude to pop his Divine Shield and then shoot it next turn.
Um, I would I would say that's okay. This is basically you can either play Primal Fin and force him to trade into it, or you can play Merc Spark, pop the shield, force him to trade into it, and then try to develop Primal Fin next turn. Because next turn you have to assume that he's just gonna hit the button, so that's 2/2 worth of stats, which isn't enough to kill the totem itself, but he'll probably have stuff to supplement that. So it's whether you want a 2/3 body later or the potential for a Primal Fin to keep going.
So what I heard was this is better. This is definitely the better play.
I think that this is like 60% of the time better, and then Primal Fin is good like 40% of the time. Oh, he's going face. Interesting. Oh, okay, this made it really good. So now you just totem and kill the 4/1 with your
Yeah.
Merc Spark.
Yeah.
Okay, that top deck was like insane. Oh,
I
and
think I hit a
healing.
dude.
Yeah, so in this, you're even though we're this more like aggro style, like you definitely want to be pushing face damage as much as possible. But in the early turns, you want to be able to control the board, so you want to trade as much as possible in the early game.
And
Because
that and because we also got this totem.
yeah, but once you get like that Primal Fin online, and then you get a Sea Giant on either the same or the next turn, then you basically just take the game. So you want to kill his board so he doesn't have as many things to interact with that can like interrupt that game plan.
Oh, that's bad.
That's a really weak turn. Okay, so yeah, this dude can just set up Primal Fin and hope that it keeps going. And since you drew a second one, I would play a Flame Tongue as well.
Do I put the flame tongue in the middle or like right here
I like
or
putting it
right
in.
here?
I like putting it in the middle of the two totems that you have, cause right now there's 0/2 bodies, which don't help against his 1/1s. You can make them 2/2s, which means they can trade.
I agree.
at this point, there's not too much his deck can do because we have so many, like especially because we rolled healing totem, we have so many bodies that can just infinitely trade and then heal up, and we're gonna get a free sea giant this turn. So
He's definitely gearing up to play level up. I think trading here, all these guys is important.
yeah, you want to trade into as many as possible. So free sea giant, and then flame tongue sets up to trade into one, but fire plume also trades for one, and you get the body. So I'd be fire pluming this turn probably.
Okay.
Um, I would have put that to the left of your primal fin just for positioning with flame tongue, but
Okay.
it's pretty minor. There you go.
That's one thing I also need to work on. I need to work on positioning and thinking that out, particularly with Flame Tongue.
Yeah, even shaman is one of the decks that matters a lot with positioning because you have flame tongue. You sometimes have dire wolf, so and like your tokens are always going to spawn to the left. Your totems are always going to spawn to the left. So there's a lot of things you can do to manipulate that. All right. Ooh, we get to try out the devil. It's really good in this spot too because it makes all your totems able to trade into 1/1s.
It is.
I think that that's the
I'm
play.
just doing math to see if I have lethal, and
Oh,
I don't. I'm like one off lethal. I'm like
8, 9, 10,
I'm a
11,
few
12,
off
13,
lethal.
14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, we're 4 off. Cool. This is really good. Because this lets everything trade, and then you get to hit face for 9. Damn, Sneaky Devil doing work.
I did not. Wow.
I'll be
Sneaky
real,
Devil's good. I approve.
I just say I didn't expect it, but it turns out we put it in for the aggro matchup, and it helped us in the aggro matchup.
And he's not going to be able to clear it. Oh yeah, we just went.
Oh shit, I forgot that it had stealth. That's why it's sneaky. All right, I like how this list looks.
Yeah,
That
same
was
here.
that was very dominant. So yeah, I would say once if you want, I can send you the lists that we made. So I'll send you
I
like,
I made all of them.
oh,
Like
you made all of them.
obviously, like
Oh, okay.
you,
I didn't see the third one at the top. Yeah. Okay, so you have them all. I would say that your mid-range even is your more typical one. So if you're having trouble with either of the two variants we made, I would just go back to the mid-range one. But I think that aggro one that we just played, or the one that we just played is like pretty strong. I would keep testing that out.
me too. I definitely really liked it. I liked how it felt.
Yeah. All right. Um, I would normally want to go back. I'll do it since you understood what we were talking about with that one turn that was all about sequencing. Um, we don't have to go back for the video. I'll probably go back and we'll add that in somewhere. But I think this was like a really in-depth look at Even Shaman, aside from like exactly how it fares in certain matchups and in the meta. But it was really good for getting the fundamentals and knowing what's core and how to change that around. And I think the list that we made is really good.
I agree.
All right.
Like, thank you for your help. If you want to play at some point or whatever, like send me an invite on Hearthstone. I'll definitely like talk to you.
Yeah, of course. If you stay in the Discord, if you ever want to do another session, we can do that. We're trying to get as more people are like more active in the Discord because typically there's only like 5 or 6 people online at the moment right now. Um, we're gonna try and set up like co-op laddering with people, so we just get a bunch of people in a call or in one of the general chats and hop on someone's account, find a list, and just start going at it, seeing how it fares.
Do what Zele, Purple, and Firebat do.
Yeah, essentially.
I think that's actually a really good format to learn the game. I really like when they do that. I think they have like really great discussions when they have videos with that. I definitely learn the most.
Yeah, that's. I'm hoping that, especially as the community grows, we'll have more and more people around to do that super often. And then, again, like if you ever want to do more sessions, that's cool. If you want to help anyone else out, we have a small amount of people in the Discord that actively chat. So as long as you stay around, then you'll be part of that.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good, man. I think that we're good to call it a night, though.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. All right. See you, man.
See ya.